Jimmy Fallon is heartbroken, revealing that his beloved family dog has passed away. On Monday, the talk show host took to Instagram to share the devastating news, posting a series of sweet and sentimental snapshots of their precious pup, Gary. His caption was both tender and heartbreaking. He poured out his emotions about how the silence in their home now feels deafening without her. Yet, as he beautifully described, that silence is slowly being filled again, not by the sound of paws or the familiar jingle of her collar, but by memories, stories, laughter, and a few inevitable sniffles. For Jimmy and his family, every corner of the house still whispers her name, and every moment seems to remind them of how much life she brought into their world. In his post, Jimmy shared several touching memories of Gary, reflecting on how much she meant to their family. He described her as their first baby, a therapist, a pillow, a big sister, a school marm, a comedian, a party girl, and a rebel, all rolled into one. It wasn't just a pet owner's tribute. It was a love letter to a soul that had been intertwined with their lives for over a decade. When Jimmy first introduced Gary to his followers back in 2012, he was a newly married man, still learning how to balance fame, family, and the responsibilities of adulthood. Gary entered their lives at that time when the Fallons were just starting to build their home, long before the late-night empire, the red carpets, and the global fan base that would know Jimmy as a household name. For them, Gary was there before all of that, before the big milestones, before the fame became heavier, before the world watched every move. She was there for the quiet, ordinary days, the ones that truly mattered. Over the years, Gary became something of a celebrity herself. Fans of The Tonight Show often saw glimpses of her through Jimmy's occasional stories or photos, and she quickly became a symbol of the warmth and authenticity that Fallon has always radiated. She wasn't just his pet. She was part of the Fallon family brand, a piece of his heart that he allowed the world to see. There was something universal about the way he talked about her, the way his eyes softened when he mentioned her on the show, the laughter in his voice when he told a story about her mischief. And now, the quiet ache that comes through his goodbye. It's something every dog owner can feel. That indescribable bond that grows wordlessly over years of companionship. Loyalty and unconditional love. For Jimmy, Gary's passing seems to mark the end of a chapter. A bittersweet reminder that time moves forward no matter how much we wish to hold on. Dogs, with their unfiltered affection and childlike souls, never stay long enough. They live fully. They love deeply. And then too soon they're gone, leaving behind a silence that feels larger than life. Jimmy's words captured that sentiment perfectly. He didn't just mourn her absence. He celebrated her spirit. He reminded his fans that Gary wasn't just a dog. She was family. She was part of the laughter that filled their home, the comfort that greeted them at the end of long days, and the loyal listener to countless late-night monologues long before they reached any audience. It's easy to imagine how deeply this loss must sting for Jimmy, someone known for his humor, energy, and infectious positivity. Behind the scenes, though, he's always been open about the importance of his family, his wife, Nancy Juvonen, and their 2 daughters, Winnie and Frances. Gary had been part of that unit since the very beginning. She was there when Jimmy and Nancy first brought their daughters home from the hospital. She was there during sleepless nights and chaotic mornings, sitting by the door waiting patiently as the world inside grew noisier and busier. She was the kind of dog who didn't just exist in the background. She became the heartbeat of the home, the furry shadow that followed every step, and the constant that reminded them what unconditional love truly looks like. The emotional weight of losing a pet like Gary is something many people understand. But for someone in Jimmy's position, always smiling for the world, always expected to lift others up, that grief can be even harder to process publicly. Still, he chose to share it. He chose to open up his heart and let the world see the vulnerable side of him. Not the comedian, not the talk show host, but the man, the husband, the father, the friend who just lost a member of his family. And that openness made his tribute all the more powerful. His followers flooded the comments with messages of support, empathy, and shared memories of their own pets who've crossed the Rainbow Bridge. The post became more than just a tribute. It became a moment of collective mourning. A reminder that love, whether for a person or a pet, leaves a lasting imprint that time can't erase. Gary's story, in many ways, mirrors the story of countless dogs who become silent witnesses to their owners' lives. She was there for Jimmy's milestones, when The Tonight Show first premiered, when he navigated fame and fatherhood, when he went through challenges that the public never saw. Dogs have that quiet, almost mystical ability to sense what words cannot say. They sit beside you when you're broken. They wag their tails when you succeed. And they never care about fame, money, or reputation. To Gary, Jimmy wasn't a celebrity. He was her human. The one who fed her, cuddled her, made her laugh, and perhaps sang to her during his quiet moments at home. That's the kind of bond no audience can see, and no fame can replace. In his tribute, Jimmy's words carried a tone of reflection, almost like he was speaking to her one last time. He thanked her for being everything she was, for teaching them love and patience, for filling their lives with laughter and light. He remembered how she would lay her head on his chest after a long day, how she would sense when someone was sad, and how she always seemed to know the right way to make them smile. For more than a decade, she had been a source of joy, but also of grounding. In a world that often moves too fast, Gary slowed things down. She reminded them to live in the moment, to appreciate the little things, like morning cuddles, long walks, and quiet nights together. The Fallon household must now feel painfully different. The sound of her nails clicking on the hardwood floor, the little jingles of her collar, the bark that once announced every visitor, all gone. Those everyday sounds, so easily overlooked, now echo in their absence. The couch where she used to curl up might still have her favorite blanket. The backyard where she used to chase after toys might now feel eerily still. And every photo of her on the wall or fridge now carries a different kind of weight. A bittersweet reminder of love and loss intertwined. It's often said that grief is the price we pay for love. And Jimmy's tribute embodied that truth. You could feel that deep ache between his words. The kind that only comes from loving something so purely that losing it feels like losing a piece of yourself. Yet he also reminded everyone that grief doesn't have to be just sadness. It can be gratitude. It can be laughter through tears, stories shared at the dinner table, and small moments of remembering that bring both pain and warmth. For Jimmy, Gary's presence will always be felt in the family's memories, in their routines, and in the lessons she left behind about love, loyalty, and joy. Fans who've followed Jimmy for years know that he often finds humor even in the toughest moments. It wouldn't be surprising if someday he shares a funny story about Gary on his show, not to make light of her passing, but to honor her spirit. Because that's who Gary was, a bright, funny, rebellious soul who brought laughter wherever she went. Maybe she'd steal socks, bark at random noises, or insist on sitting in someone's lap no matter how small the chair was. Those quirks, the little imperfections that make a pet unique, are the things that stay with you the longest.